welcome to Go For Side Effects. I'm your host, Kevin Simon. Y'all know my co-host, John. John, how you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Huh? It's a little warm right now. Next week it'll get really cold. And we got Paul Schwartz, United States Air Force. We haven't had too many Air Force people on here. How you doing, Paul?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
Good. And me and Paul, we talked, a couple weeks ago, and he's got some interesting stories, but he also has a interesting company that I would like to also talk about on the show because I think it's important. It helps vets. The other thing is I want to, remind everybody 34 years ago, it's our 34th anniversary. I don't know, happy anniversary, and I mean, 34 years. Whew, that's a long time.
That was a long time ago.
John, man, that's like ancient years for you, ain't it?
Yeah.
No, I want to welcome everybody. 34 years, you sit back and you think about that as a long time. But I also like to thank everybody who's gone on to YouTube and checked out our YouTube page. We're trying to build it up. Please, you can get on there by clicking the link in the bio and all that stuff. Subscribe and share it. I really appreciate it. Also, check out our Patreon. We do what's called the After Show. Paul's going to experience that today, and we're going to have a whole lot of fun in there. We can say stuff in there that I cannot say on Facebook Live. And Paul, I want you to tell, I want to head into your story when you went in. We all know you went to Air Force and what you did, and let's get to talking.
You bet. So I was 18 when I joined the Air Force. Hang on real quick. Sorry. I was 18 when I joined the Air Force. I enlisted in Newton, Kansas, which is, if you know where Newton, Kansas is, you should get a gold star because nobody knows where the hell Newton is. One of the 10,000 little small cities across the Midwest. I knew that living in Kansas was not for me. My older brother had joined the Marine Corps in the early 80s, and I just felt a calling to join the military. And when my brother told me a lot about his Marine Corps experiences, unless you want to be a Marine, unless you really want to be a Marine, join the Air Force.
Hey, man, I agree with you on that one, man.
And I said, all right. He goes, and get an MOS, or as we call them in the Air Force, AFSC, that you can translate to the outside world. Because he was an anti-tank light infantry, I don't know, unit of some kind in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii area. He's like, man, there's no need for anti-tank people, in the civilian community. There's no need for people who can handle an M60 in the civilian community. So he felt like he did a great deal serving his country, but yet in the same breath, his recommendation to me was to get a skill that I could leverage once I got it.
That's a pretty freaking. That's a good brother. My brother would have been
suggestion,
like, My brother would have been like, no, man, you should have went to the Army and or the Marines, not the Navy.
My brother was in the Coast Guard, and he didn't tell me when. I just said, okay, I'm going to the Army because I want to do construction engineer stuff. So that's what I did.
Oh, there you go.
Well, every role has a part to play out there. And,
For
sure. 34 years, we all still remember most of it like it was yesterday. Yeah, well, until the brain fog hits and,
Right.
So how did you know you told a story about how you knew you were going to Desert Storm.
So I joined in 89 and went to intelligence training for about a year, place in Massachusetts called Fort Devens, Massachusetts, an Army post. I learned the difference between an Army post and an Air Force base. Big issue, big difference.
Yeah.
Hard way what a warrant officer was, and that by God, you better salute a warrant officer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Not a broken lieutenant's bar, which is what I thought it was. Like, that's a lieutenant. Well, I'm like, man, look at this guy. He goes, and he had fun. To his credit, he had fun. He ripped me a new one. What the heck? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And he's like, I'm calling your Air Force commander to make sure you understand the Army ranks.
Jeez,
Right? He had a good time.
that's
He
funny.
went and had a beer with his buddies and said, yeah, I lit up one of those Air Force wing nuts, which is what they call us.
Wing nut.
Yeah, the E2 stripe. If you look at an Air Force E2 stripe, an airman, it looks like a wing nut. So they call us.
Oh yeah, it sure does.
Interesting. I hadn't heard. Okay.
And
All right.
then from there, I went to Goodfellow Air Force Base in San Angelo, Texas, and finished my intelligence training. And then I got stationed at a place called Wurtsmith Air Force Base, Michigan. My initial duty assignment was a place in Texas, and I get called out of class, and hey, you got to go to the assignments office, and there's this big hubbub, right? And I'm like, okay, so what's going on? He goes, you're not going to go to Dyess Air Force Base in Texas. You're going to Wurtsmith Air Force Base. And I look at, now this is the assignments guy, right? This is an E5 assignments guy. I go, where the heck is that? He goes, I don't know. It sounds German to me. I guess you're going to Germany. I'm like, sir, you're the assignments guy and you don't know where this base is. It's like, this is your job.
Right.
So for 2 or 3 minutes, we sat there and said, oh, MI, that must be Michigan. And he pulls out, I know this is going to date myself, a Rand McNally 18. And we're flipping through this book of Michigan. It's on 2 different pages, and we end up finding where it's at. It was just kind of funny. So I get up there in early October. It's a B-52 unit, KC-135 refueling planes. And our primary role was nuclear deterrence. So we had 6 B-52s on alert at all times, along with 6 KC-135s at all times, fully loaded with nukes. And crews that, like you see on some TV movies or movies on, whatever, the alarm goes off, the klaxon goes off, they run out to the planes, and we launch 6 bombers with nukes to go to war. So that was our primary mission. Our secondary mission was conventional. So we're watching TV one night, Friday night, and General Schwartz is on 2020 talking to Barbara Walters. And she says to him a couple of questions. She says, hey, General, why'd you stay in the Army after the quagmire that was Vietnam? He goes, I felt if I could stay long enough in the Army, I could get to the rank to where I could change the Army for the better. She goes, did you do that? He goes, I think I have. And he goes, she asks about Desert Shield, because in October we were building up for Desert Shield quite a bit. And he said that one time when he was a captain or a major in the Army, he called in an airstrike and he saw B-52s 300 feet off the deck open up on North Vietnamese troops. And the horror and terror that went through his men's eyes and lives that day when he saw a B-52 strike. Oh, granted, a B-52 strike is actually 3 planes. It's not just one. Every time B-52s go, it's 3 planes. It's not just one. He goes, I want every Iraqi to feel that same fear. 5 minutes later, gentlemen, I kid you not, our phones started to ring, pagers went off, whether we were drunk, sober, didn't matter. We had to get in, and that's how we found out we were going to Desert Shield, was on 2020 from General Schwarzkopf.
That's crazy.
I don't care. That would be so badass, man.
I don't know if it's badass or not, but it was just like, I guess this is what we're doing now. We're going. And literally, as you gentlemen know, the day that you get the word that the alert order and action order start coming out, things change immediately.
Well, I could say this is, I mean, we got out there like September, so, well before, but we didn't even know when they declared war until all the planes and missiles start taking off.
Oh, wow.
You weren't notified? They didn't tell you?
No. We were standing up on the bridge and everything went all crazy, man. I don't know if
you guys, I'm going to try to change this around a little bit because I've got something I didn't think about before this call. I have, let me see if I can do this. What I've got here, I don't know if you guys can see that.
We see the bridge.
Sorry. Okay. So what I've got here is the original message that came out 0300 on January 17. Really? 001 Zulu. And it says Desert Storm message to our troops. First time Desert Storm was used. And it is distribution entire DOD. entire U.S. government. Subject line, Desert Storm message to our troops. Now you can go Google this and see the context, but I've got the actual message. Please give this message to the U.S. CENTCOM widest dissemination possible. Soldiers, sailors, and airmen and Marines, the United States Central Command. This morning at 0300 local, we launched Operation Desert Storm, an offensive campaign that will enforce the United Nations resolution that Iraq must cease its rape and pillage of a weaker neighbor and withdraw its forces from Kuwait. The President, the Congress, the American people, and indeed the world stand in their support for your actions. You are a member of the most powerful force in our country, in a coalition with our allies, the largest that has ever been assembled in a single theater to face such an aggressor. You have trained hard for this. You've trained hard for this battle, and you are ready. During my visits with you, I have seen it in your eyes. Fire and determination to get this job done and done quickly so that we all return to the shores of our great nation. My confidence in you is total. Our cause is just. Now, you just must be the thunder and the lightning of Desert Storm. May God be with you, your loved ones at home, and our country. H. Norman Schwarzkopf, Commander-in-Chief, U.S. Central Command. This is
Damn.
I'm going to see if I can. No, I don't want to monkey up the background here, but this is like the original message that came out at 0300 local. So
Will you
That's
send that to
interesting.
me? I want you to
yeah,
send that
yeah.
later on. Later on, I want
Yep,
you to
yep,
send
yep,
that
yep,
to
yep.
me.
So I worked in intelligence, and at the end of the day, that message was not a classified message. Okay, so you're going to see my background on my kitchen, but this is the actual. Now it was highlighted in 1991, but I don't know if anybody
No.
remembers. Like I said, if you went out and Googled the message that started the Gulf War, you would find the text of that message. And we had it taped up on the wall for I don't know how long. And when we were getting ready to go back to the States, I'm like, you know what? That's unclassified. I'm going to snag that.
That is
Yeah.
awesome, man.
So yeah,
That's
I'll
yeah.
take a really good picture and
Yeah.
I'll send it to you guys. And if anybody's interested,
That'd be great.
Yeah,
what's
yeah. I'll
really
put it up on
bizarre.
our page. I'll put
Yeah,
it
what's
up on
really
our page.
Yeah.
what's
And,
really yeah, go ahead.
okay, so you get that. Y'all start loading up. Y'all start taking off. And how long did it take y'all to get there?
So the crazy thing about this is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia would not allow an offensive weapon in country until the war started.
Really?
Think about that for a second.
Huh, really?
Every weapon system in our arsenal is a defensive postured weapon, with the exception of bombers. Bombers do not provide defense, they only cause destruction. So at the end of
Really?
the day, we got there, we set up this entire Air Force base, 4,000 or 5,000 people, however many it was. The base in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia mirrored the airport at Dallas, Fort Worth Airport in size.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Massive airport. We had 110 KC-135s and KC-10 tankers.
Holy crap.
110, gentlemen.
My God.
We had B-52 crews in country, all the maintenance. We had bombs. We had everything you needed in country with the exception of the physical planes. So
That is
message
wild.
goes out. Planes take off from Michigan. They take off from Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana. And they fly like 30 hours. They hit downtown Baghdad. Yes, there were B-52s over downtown Baghdad the very first night of the war at 500 feet off the deck. We didn't lose one of them.
That's I was just saying that's really low.
Yeah, 500 feet off the deck. Yep.
Yeah.
They hit all these targets in downtown Baghdad. They hit communications targets, and they hit primarily electricity. Power generators. And they
Right.
recovered in Saudi Arabia. So that was the only time, or the first time, an offensive weapon landed on the soil of Saudi Arabia is when those bombers landed. And they were the only 17 of them, and they were the only ones in country.
I'm telling you right now,
Hmm.
I bet you on them B-52s, they had a shitload of buttons on.
Oh my gosh.
You and buttons.
Oh
You
my
and
gosh.
buttons.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. I
Oh,
I
if you
could have
like
been.
buttons, go look at one of those cockpits if you like buttons.
Oh my God, man! I'm telling you, no, you do not want me in a cockpit with a bunch of buttons because we're gonna be dropping payloads right then and there. I'd be like, well, what does that thing do? I'm telling you, dude. Could you imagine it, John? Could you imagine me being in the cockpit of one of them?
You are like a 2-year-old with a
I'm telling you, man, with the lollipop, man. So
Kevin, want to hear something else crazy?
yeah,
There's 6 people on a B-52. Back then,
really.
G models. Now they have the H models, and Boeing is upgrading the engines to a J model. But the G models have 6 people. Pilot, co-pilot eject up. The gunner and early warning officer eject up from the plane. The navigator and radar navigator or bombardier go down. They eject down from the plane. Minimum altitude is like 4,000 feet for a safe ejection downward.
Wow.
okay. So
Downward, huh? Wow.
so
That's interesting.
so on these airplanes, they got the gunners, right? They got gunners
Yes.
all over that plane, correct?
Only in the back.
Only in the back. And
Correct.
he's sitting at the tail. Is he underneath the tail or above
He
the
is
tail?
actually moved very much towards the center of the plane.
Okay.
The B-52D model, which was used heavily in Vietnam, has a very big tail. The gunner was actually in the tail back then, but they moved him or her closer to the center of the plane, and he would basically use the guns on a radar. And I think 4 or 5 planes were shot down in Vietnam from a B-52 gunner, and none since. I mean, with
Those
the
things are
advent of
incredible.
missiles and
huge.
whatnot, you're not going to get a 50 cal at a mile and a half to shoot down a fighter. It's not going to happen.
And so, but are they B-52s? Do they carry people also, like yourself? What did you do on there? Anything?
I didn't fly. I provided the intelligence.
Okay, but did you fly on them over there?
Not over there because it was in combat. I was able to fly a B-52 a number of different times. So, like when you think about a commercial jet, you got a pilot, co-pilot, right? On a B-52, you have an instructor pilot seat that like flops down. Well, you got to train. There's only so much simulation you can do. So I got aircrew certified. I went to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base after Desert Storm, went through the altitude chamber, all that stuff. And I got to fly in a B-52, and we got to do a lot of bombing missions in Nevada with live ordnances at 500 feet off the deck, flying the desert and north of Vegas in August of '91. So that was kind of cool.
Oh man, God, I would have loved to have been up there.
I tell you
Those
what,
things are just so massive,
Yeah.
when they drop all their bombs, traditionally the entire plane rises up about 10 to 15 feet. Because that's how they let go, the plane actually goes. Whoop.
Wow.
It's crazy. The wings flap like 8 or 9 feet in flight. It's
8 or 9 feet?
yeah, it's incredible.
Wow.
Somebody will correct me and say it's actually 7 feet, Paul, or it's 12. Whatever.
No, nobody's correcting you at all.
I'm just saying.
I mean, that is the one thing about it is like, my parents collected like every news article of everything at Desert Storm. I have every article about Desert Storm that was written in the papers in Houston. And then, and some of them you read and some of them you're just like, sitting back years ago, thinking about 34 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
On Veterans Day, about a year ago, Veterans Day 2022, my oldest daughter said, "Hey, Dad, can you really tell me about your time in the Air Force?" And I've got a big Rubbermaid tote in the garage that says U.S. Air Force 8995. It has any awards, decorations, nuclear, biological, chemical training certificate that I went through that, first aid and buddy care, all the stuff we go through, right? And I start pulling this out and I'm starting to find things that I forgot I had. And after about 30 minutes of talking to my oldest daughter, She was like, Dad, you did some really amazing things. I'm like, I don't know. That's just what we did.
That is crazy because, like, my mom saved every letter I written back home during the war. She saved. I still have them. I was going to throw them away during our move, and my wife's like, "No, one day the kids might want to read it. I don't want to read it. I already know what happened over there." And usually the very first thing is, "Hi, how you doing? Doing good. Hi." And then little letter or something I write. And so, okay, so I do want to get a little bit into, because like me, you were talking, and like you have neuropathy. I got stuff, neuropathy, a lot of similar things. But I'm going to talk a little, I'm going to talk not just a little bit. I'm going to talk about the company that
Okay.
that you have done. And so let's get into that.
Can I tell one more?
Oh yeah,
crazy
yeah.
story
Yeah.
you may not know about? So if you looked at a map of Saudi Arabia, Jeddah is right on the Red Sea. Okay. So there were all these Patriot missile batteries up around Syria and the border. And I want to say the third or the fourth day of the war, Saddam Hussein started lobbing scuds into Israel. You guys remember that?
No, I remember that.
Okay.
Hmm.
Israel was not playing games, gentlemen. They launched 20 F-16s out of Israel, flew them down the Red Sea, and contacted us and wanted what was called the IFF codes, identification friend or foe. So
Hmm.
the Patriots wouldn't shoot them down because they were going to go into Baghdad and level the city. We had really good intelligence that these 20 F-16s were not carrying conventional bombs.
Oh.
Wow.
They were not messing around, gentlemen. And of course, at the time, it was all, super cosmic, top secret, heavily classified, all this. And the Israeli Air Force commander is calling our Air Force commander in Jeddah going, we're coming. And our guy's like, no, you're not. We'll shoot you down. We'll shoot you down. So there's this massive stalemate standoff for about 4 or 5 minutes. And you got 20 Israeli F-16s coming down, and we can see them on radar. We're tracking them. And our signals intelligence guys, like, they're not loading conventional. They're not conventional. They're not conventional. And that's all the guys kept saying. We cannot confirm what's on there, but we know it's not conventional. Finally,
Hmm.
finally, I mean, like, the State Department's on the, if there's such a thing as a red phone, and we got the Israelis turned around, went back, and they said, oh, it's a training mission. We're just doing training mission. So
Holy crap.
it was, there's a couple of stories like that I could tell that are really bizarre. The other one would be that, yes, F-117s did get hit by AAA anti-aircraft fire during the Gulf War. I don't care what the History Channel says. I don't care what the F-117 pilots will tell you. F-117s got hit by anti-aircraft fire. There's no doubt about it.
Wow.
Really?
If you
Wow.
flew over Iraq, you got hit with what the Air Force would call a golden BB, a lucky shot.
Hmm.
One of our tankers, one of the KC-135s we had, went all the way up to the border and then got a mayday call from a 117 that was about 150 nautical miles into Iraq. And the F-117 was going to ditch. And under no circumstances were we ever going to lose an F-117 fighter. Under no circumstances. If we lost one of those planes, we would lie about it, blow up the wreckage, and never say we lost it.
Okay, but
Hmm.
wasn't there a pilot, if I'm not mistaken, that was shot down?
In Yugoslavia in '99, I could get into all those.
No, I mean during Desert Storm, there was
Not the
somebody
117.
captured.
F-18 guy named
Okay.
Spiker,
Yes, that's
a
it.
Navy guy. Spiker, I think it was a commander or lieutenant commander. I'm not real good on my naval
Right.
officer ranking. So what happens is one of our KC-135s gets the emergency call. You got to fly into Iraq. Now, this is a flying gas tank, gentlemen. This is a Shell gas station, right?
Yeah,
They
they're
put
huge.
2 F-15s in front of it and 2 behind it, and they escort this KC-135. He hits this F-117 and puts it on the little refueling arm that comes down. and flies 450 miles back to Taif Airfield in southern Saudi Arabia so the plane wouldn't crash. They were pumping
Really?
fuel into the plane while the plane was flying so the plane wouldn't crash.
That is crazy.
So it's always funny when you see things, to me anyways, on History Channel, or, oh, you know, F-117s, blah, 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 blah. No, if you were flying, you were getting hit.
Oh yeah. That's just
Anyways,
that is crazy.
and one other thing I'll tell you, or maybe show you. So I worked in intelligence, and we found out very quickly that we were considered to be a high value target for the Iraqi military. Okay, which was a little scary to realize that somebody would not want to kill me, they would want to capture me. So we
Yeah,
were
that.
issued something called a blood chit.
Oh,
I don't know if you guys have ever seen something like this before.
No.
I want to say I have.
This is made of special paper. There's a serial number in every corner, and this is issued to me, and that serial number matched my social security number. So I had to carry this at all times. In the event I ever got taken hostage, I could rip a corner off and give it to my hostage takers and say, this is worth 10,000 US dollars cash if you get me to freedom. And
Oh.
on here is Arabic, Persian, Kurdish, Turkish, and it's
Oh.
English. I'm an American. I do not speak your language. I will not harm you. I bear no malice towards your people. My friend, please provide me food, water, shelter, clothing, necessary medical attention. Also, please provide me safe passage to the nearest friendly forces of any country supporting the Americans and their allies. You will be rewarded for assisting me when you present this number in my name to American authorities.
Oh,
That is when
that kind of gave you.
we're going to war.
That's kind of not a good, warm, fuzzy thing to receive, kind of thing. It's like, nah, shit.
Well, I'm kind of pissed because I didn't get anything like that.
No, I don't think I received anything, but I think I've seen something like that.
They go
I
back
just,
to World War II, I think World War II.
yeah. I mean,
Anyway.
that's interesting that you got this thing framed. That's pretty cool.
And
I mean,
John has one, rips off the corners, and when they read it, it says worth $2 American. I mean, I was probably
Wow.
$1. I'm just saying. I mean,
And it doesn't. It could be monopoly money. It doesn't have to be American money.
Yeah.
It could be monopoly money, right?
Oh, that's hilarious.
But-
So,
Anyway, we're back to the health issues.
Yeah. Go ahead.
well, no, I mean, yeah, I was. I mean, we'll talk about the company here in a bit, but I'm kind of curious, Paul, if you can. When did you first realize you had personal issues with your health?
So about 2013, 2014 timeframe, I started to get letters from the VA. Hey, you're a Gulf War veteran. Do you have cancer? Do you have this health issue? Do you have that health issue? And they were all these terrible cancers. And I'm like, no, no, no. When I got out in 95, I called the VA for healthcare. They said, you make too much money. We're not going to help. I'm like, dude, I make 25 grand a year. What do you mean I make too much money? Well, you're not poor. You're not homeless. I called again in 98. I called again in like 2003, all the same crap. I'm like, okay, I did my 6 years for Uncle Sam. Your contract was to do this for me. Now you're screwing me over. Fine. But I started to get these letters in the mail in the mid 2000s, 2010s, 2012s. I'm at work one day, and one of my coworkers, a retired lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, I stand up at a conference room, and my knees go snap, crackle, pop.
Oh,
And he looks at me and goes, aren't you getting disability for that? I go, no, I can't get disability. They tell me I don't qualify. He goes, that's crap. You do qualify. You don't qualify for healthcare. VA benefits is something different. And I went, light bulb. So VA healthcare, VA benefits, VA cemetery, VA home loan, these are all different programs, and they're not necessarily connected. So I made a decision that night in 2015 that I'm going to figure out how to apply for my benefits. 8 years later,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Preach it.
I like to say I maximized my VA rating. If anybody wants to know, I am rated. Not everybody gets 50%. Not everybody gets 30%. Not everybody gets 100%. It's not a high score, a video game.
No, that's funny, but yeah, you're right.
That's true.
You don't want to be service connected for 100% because you got some serious health stuff going on.
Yeah.
As somebody who's 100% service connected, you do have some serious health stuff going on. The VA math is tricky to understand.
No boy.
If you are service connected at 100%, more likely than not, you have 270 to 300% disability. If you were to actually add them all up, it gets very complex. I say it's a Rubik's Cube of Rubik's Cubes.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Yeah.
I got angry. I said, look, you guys trained me, educate me, taught me to go around the world. I deployed many different times, many different places, and it's time for you to hold up your end of the bargain. You can either get mad and quit, or you can get mad and go forward. It's not that I like to win, it's that I hate to lose.
Mm.
Okay?
Yeah.
If we were sitting around and somebody said, hey, Paul, let's play cribbage. I have no idea how to play cribbage. I don't even know what cribbage is. You roll some dice, you move some little pegs around a board, right? Or backgammon.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Right, John or Kevin, maybe you know how to play I don't know how to play, but if you teach me, I won't play to win.
Yeah.
I'm not playing here for my own entertainment. We're going to play best of 5 or best of 7. We're going to figure out how to play this game called backgammon. We're going to play. I don't mind losing, but I ain't going to get my ass kicked either. That's about the VA.
That's it.
Yeah, but I like that's well phrased. I like that.
Very well phrased. I like that.
So when I got out of the Air Force, I worked in intelligence. I worked in national level intelligence the last 3 years I was in. Let's just go with CIA, DIA, NSA, EIO after that. I went to places where I could not wear my Air Force uniform. Area 51 is not the only place that has an area and then a number after it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You can have some fun and Google Area 58 after the podcast is over. Places in DC that are referenced by building number alone, that if you don't know the building number, you don't need to know what goes on inside that building. Some of those buildings you walk into and they look like they could be the headquarters of General Motors or whomever, and you show them your driver's license, not your military ID card. Oh, Mr. Schwartz, we're expecting you. Come this way. Serious, bizarre James Bond type stuff. And what had happened for me is as I had gotten more and more into the world of the intelligence community, the more I'm like, I'm not sure I agree with the morals and ethics of some of the things we were doing. So I did my 6 years in the Air Force and honorable discharge. And I started to work for an internet company because I worked in technology in the intelligence community. Everything became very automated very quickly. I knew a lot about technology. I ended up working for IBM for about 15 years, a couple of different software companies. And recently I started my own software company.
Let's talk about your software company.
So my software company is a company called Operation Beacon. What got me frustrated when I went through the Veterans Benefits Administration, the VBA, it took me like 8 months to understand Veterans Health Administration versus Veterans Benefits Administration. They don't talk, and you can screw yourself up sometimes. If you're telling your VA doctor the wrong thing, it will prevent you from getting a Veterans Benefits Administration disability approved. So my buddy told me, hey, Paul, you got bad knees, bad ankles. Yep. It happened in the Air Force. Yes. It's in my Air Force medical record. Yes. He goes, put a claim in, you'll get approved. Boom, got denied.
Oh, of course.
Okay. So I got that decision letter that we all have gotten, or denial letter, and I got angry. I'm like, this happened. It's in my Air Force medical records. And so I did a ton of research. I'm like, oh, wait a second. I don't have a current diagnosis for bad knees. You need to have a current diagnosis. I had the service connection, but I did not have the current diagnosis. Nowhere in the VA's documentation, paperwork, I couldn't find it. If it's there, great. I couldn't find it. And then the next thing I realized is that the VA requires what they called a continuum of care. Meaning, if you have bad knees, okay, I had to get a current diagnosis. Great. Now, what are you doing about your bad knees, Paul? Are you taking medication for them? Do you have to wear knee braces? Do you have to wear a lidocaine patch? What are you doing because your knees are bad? The easy example is hearing loss and you have hearing aids. Hearing aid is a continuum of care. if you take a medication for a health issue, that is a continuum of care. Well, hell, it took me years to figure all that out. So instead of focusing on the fact that I had bad knees, I decided to flip the entire situation around in the VA. There's 900 plus health conditions the VA will give you compensation for. Less than
900?
900.
Okay.
Okay.
I
Less
hadn't
than,
heard that number before.
okay. You can get 34 different disabilities for your knee. They'll only award you 4, but there are 34 different disabilities for a knee.
No, that's true. That's very true.
Right, but you can only get 4. After you get 4 disabilities, like we're going to replace your knee and give you 30% for knee replacement. Your knees are messed up. The point is, most of the disabilities that we veterans suffer with are not visible. We're not losing a finger, right? We're not missing a hand. We didn't get blown up by an IED. It's mental health or it's internal organs, being neuropathy, thyroid, type 2 diabetes, breathing issues, sinusitis, the running of the nose, rhinitis, where it all drains into the back.
Yeah.
These are not things that you normally see on a person. So a lot of times we veterans get into this mindset that I'm not disabled because I'm not in a wheelchair. Furthest thing from the truth. It's a huge mistake. So what I did is I took a counterintuitive approach. And I said, okay, these are all the bases I was stationed at. This was my MOS. This was my rank. The VA has presumptive health conditions because you were in the Navy. Just by virtue of being in the Navy, they'll give you disability because of some of the crap you did in the Navy. I started to learn that Camp Lejeune was not the only military base that had poisoned water. There's over 700 in the United States that have poisoned water.
Oh, yeah.
I found out that my base in Michigan had poisoned water. In 2018, there was a documentary made on Apple TV. And Erin Brockovich, yes, the lady from the movie, was involved. And I was stationed there, and that's why I have type 2 diabetes. I had to find all the DoD documentation, all the EPA documentation, all the VA documentation about this base having contaminated water, and that the health issues that they cause are thyroid, kidney, pancreatic, et cetera, et cetera. I finally dug all that up. I submitted that with my claim, and they approved type 2 diabetes for 20% disability because I take metformin every day. The secondaries to type 2 diabetes become very interesting. Neuropathy for each arm. There's 4 nerves, 2 in each leg. So that's 6 secondary conditions for being type 2 diabetic.
Okay. No kidding.
Yes. So I'm a computer guy, right? I got spreadsheets and pivot tables and blah, 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 all this nerd geek stuff, right? Yes, my name's Paul. I'm a little bit of a computer nerd. And that's why my buddy said, we need to write TurboTax for the VA, Paul. There's too much data, too many if this, then that, if this, then that, if this, then that statements. So we wrote a database. It's operationbeacon.com. And we help veterans analyze their service record to their health issue, not the other way around. We've gotten so many veterans service connected for type 2 diabetes, kidney disease, strokes, so many different health issues because of the toxic chemicals we've been exposed to, or just exposures in general. One example, if you were an air crew member, or if you did any kind of maintenance on a vehicle outside, think helicopter, airplane, tank, any kind of maintenance on vehicles outside, you have a 70% chance more than anybody else in the military to get skin cancer, and you didn't get issued suntan lotion. So the VA says, hey, you were outside working all the time. If you have skin cancer, boom, presumptive health condition. If you flew on board airplanes, you were closer to the sun. The radiation from the sun is more dangerous than it is when you're on the surface of the earth. Boom, skin cancer. So there are things that we never think about being service connected that we put into the database, and tons of VA data, tons of analytics that we're able to service connect for people.
Now, do y'all have a Facebook page or?
We do not yet.
Okay.
We've been up and running just under a year. I was able to quit my job full time, and we were able to get some investment capital from we helped a veteran go from 0 to 100%. And he was kind of the, respect to him, he inherited a lot of farmland from his parents when they died. And he's like, look, man, you guys need to do this for everybody. And they were able to give us some funding and buy part of the company. And so now we're running as fast as we can to help as many veterans as possible. The technology, technology is not necessarily cheap. We stay on top of it all the time. But we're out here helping veterans every single day do their claims. We have automated the claims process. The veteran still applies for his or her benefits. We do not do the application for you, but we've automated the veteran writing a veteran letter. We've automated writing buddy letters. I've got an incredible database of toxic chemicals as to what health issue they are causing. So we're able to help a lot of veterans service connect diseases that they don't realize are service connected, and or take their current list of approved service connections and then figure out what are the spider web of secondary conditions.
Yeah, yeah. And what's the website? Somebody's asking.
Operationbeacon.com. We did operation because the military has been doing operations since World War I, World War II. Beacon because we're a guiding light. We want to guide, we want to shine a light on the path for veterans getting their benefits. Operationbeacon.com.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I mean, and this way I look at it. Any way any veteran can help another vet and do stuff, I'm all for it. I'm game. As long as, they ain't taking advantage of the vet.
Yeah, no back pay. We're not doing anything like that. We're not doing a percentage of what you get approved. There's technology involved.
It wasn't that long ago. It wasn't that long ago. I did a whole show on somebody that they go in and they file claims, but they're making a mint off of these people, and I was pissed.
Yeah,
and I think it's very important to know that there are vets, especially Desert Storm vets. So y'all pay attention to that. He's not just a guy that has a company for veterans. He's a Desert Storm vet. He's wanting to help. And I mean, with that being said, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we get to the after show? Because now I got some more questions.
No problem.
Yeah, same.
At the end of the day, guys, going back to the military and how it ties to Desert Storm, exposures, and health issues. One of the problems I had as a 19-year-old working in intelligence, the Polish and the Czechoslovakians had the best nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons detection. I want to say they were Fox vehicles. Memory might be a little
true. Yep.
Fox vehicle was the best because they believed we were going to jump across the Iron Curtain into Eastern Europe with chemical weapons. So they designed and built the best in the world. They were far superior to ours. Their alarms were going off, and I would start to see the raw intelligence coming in. We got chemical weapons in the Scuds, and we got chemical weapons in artillery shells and chemical weapons in the landmines.
That's right.
And it was classified top secret. Couldn't say anything
about that on the show, man. Well, I found out about it.
In 1996, and I can send this to you as well, Kevin and John. In 1996, Defense Intelligence Agency published pages of every log of every time the chemical weapons were reported.
Oh, I would love that too.
Date, time, location. That's the kind of research that we give to veterans to submit with their VA claim. This is the Defense Intelligence Agency saying sarin gas or VX gas or whatever was used in Desert Storm. My name's Paul. I was in Desert Storm. I was exposed to this. Prove my disability. That happens every single time.
Oh, that's freaking awesome.
So again, maybe one for the nerds. I don't know.
Oh, no.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that we've talked so many times. We've talked so many times about how many times the alarms went off. We asked almost everybody that was there, basically everybody, about information like that. We have had several veterans share, this information that's now declassified or whatever, but we haven't heard it like you just phrased it. We know the truth. We were there. Yeah. So,
34 years later to the day, yeah, I can tell you, I know they were there. I know what I suffer from. I feel it every day. And it's just, it doesn't run in my family. It's just stuff that doesn't happen. But now, with everybody that listened, thank y'all for listening. We are going to go into the after the show. Paul, that man, what a pleasure. And I mean,
No problem, guys.
Operation Beacon. Well,
OperationBeacon.com.
yep, .com. And we're going to put that up on there.
I'll send you guys the Defense Intelligence Agency. I'm looking at the report right now for what it's worth. And, this gets into all the details. January 19, 0300, blah, 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 Saudi Arabia, Navy Seabees, Navy Mobility Construction Battalion, yada. I mean,
We're going to get into this stuff, man. That's the stuff I
and
want to
if you
see.
want me to come back on a show to talk about that a little more in depth,
I do. I think I would like to do a full show on this, on the missiles that they sent, the times, about how many missiles we can, well, at least maybe not have the approximate, but get close to it. Maybe how
Sure.
many missiles and everything. John, thank you for coming. Listeners, thank y'all for listening.
You bet.
Hey, man, love each and every one of y'all, and y'all keep safe, and y'all go check out our YouTube channel. And if you need to get a hold of me at Kevin Simon at GoForSideEffects.com. Y'all have a great night.